Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo. Super Bowl week has arrived, and the Buys will be represented twice over. You'll hear from Gray Zabel today. Plus, the Vikings make a mess out of everything. Hot Mic starts now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to the Are We Sure the Draft Ended Up Okay edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV. Good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls, KNBN in Western South Dakota, and all parts in between at Inforum.com. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy February as well. New month on tap. New week. New GM is coming for the Minnesota Vikings, which we'll get to here in all due time. I hope everybody had a tremendous weekend, ready to start a new week. It is Super Bowl week. It is Olympics week as well for you nerds out there, myself included. This is a fantastic sports week on tap as we've reached February, and the road to state tournaments is now right around the corner. We're 3 weeks out from wrestling. The end of the month is hockey, and then it all goes downhill from there. So here we go with a new month, and we're ready to guide the ship forward here for the next 2 hours at least on this Monday. We got a lot to get to today. We'll unpack from Mobile and Cole Payton's performance at the Senior Bowl. That was a hot topic that we discussed all of last week, wrapped up, and Cole was right in the spotlight again on Saturday. We'll show you a little bit of that. As we start a new month, Bison basketball has still not lost in the Summit League. In fact, the Bison women haven't lost now in 2.5 months. Think about that. For a team that was riddled with apathy, that no one cared what was going on with Bison women's basketball, they are now owners of a 18-game win streak. They are 20-2 on the season. And now, because of what happened on Saturday, have a 2-game lead in the Summit League standings. Virtually, unless they lose to somebody that is off the radar, they almost have the hammerlock on the regular season championship. We'll get to that coming up as well later on in the show this morning. Now, we were guiding along Friday, and then we had the major news at the end of the first hour of our show Friday that Derek Falvey and the Minnesota Twins were breaking up. The guy that had run the operation for the better part of a decade for the Twins. 2 weeks out before they report for spring training. 2 weeks from now, we got baseball happening in Fort Myers, and the Twins are now losing the guy that literally was talking to fans 10 days ago at Twins Fest in the Twin Cities about pumping up the upcoming season, and here's where we're going to go. And evidently things got so poor that they decided that they couldn't continue. Thought that was going to be the biggest news of the day. Because not even an hour later, the Vikings decided to one-up them and fired Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the general manager of this football team, since he was hired in January of 2022. And brought in Kevin O'Connell as their head coach after the Rams won the Super Bowl in Los Angeles a couple weeks after that. Now, the stories that have come out over the last 36 to 48 hours are head-scratching, are infuriating, depending on how much of a Purple fan you are, just downright head-shaking. Like, you just can't understand it. Now, the Vikes have announced that Rob Brzezinski, their capologist, the man who's been basically guiding them to get under the cap over the last 2 decades, will serve as the interim general manager through the draft. And then the Vikings say they're going to hire a new general manager after the NFL draft, which, okay, there's still some major decisions to happen between now and April 30th, including free agency begins in the middle of March. Kwesi was at the Senior Bowl. He was in Mobile this past week representing the Vikings. And then the Wilfs decide to part ways and fire him on Friday. And, I mean, depending on the stories you read, there are some really interesting decisions here. Matthew Collar from Purple Insider, we've had Matthew on the show a couple of times, I thought he and Kevin Seifert have the go-to definitive stories of what went down here. Let's just go back to earlier this season when Jalen Naylor was hurt. They knew Jordan Addison was going to be suspended. Collar writes, multiple sources told Purple Insider that Executive Vice President Rob Brzezinski called Carolina General Manager Dan Morgan to get the deal over the finish line, to get Adam Thielen to come to Minnesota because they felt Adolfo-Mensah had not been aggressive enough. Thus, Thielen became a Viking at the cost of what equated to a fourth-round pick. Adam Schefter tweeted, throughout the season, there was talk about an underlying tension in the Vikings building in league circles. One league source said it had been, quote, ugly in Minnesota. Then Friday, the Vikings fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Collar writes, how did it happen? We go back to 2022, and we've talked about this many times on this show. That Vikings draft of 2022 is going to go down as one of the worst. There's only two guys out of that 2022 draft that are still on the team, Ty Chandler and Naylor. And Chandler likely is not going to be on this team once the new year begins. Collar writes, the 2022 draft was Adolfo-Mensah's first opportunity to show that he was bringing a new flavor to the Vikings as the new general manager hire with a unique, data-driven background. He decided to make an unorthodox trade down in the draft by moving from the 12th overall pick to the 32nd pick without getting a future first in return. We talked about that extensively that next day. They traded with the Lions. That ended up being Jameson Williams was the pick. And the rest is history on that. The Vikings took Lewis Cine, and certainly history was there. Let me read a little bit more on this. That bucked tradition, but some of the more analytically slanted draft value charts thought it was worthwhile. The Vikings passed on wide receiver Jameson Williams and safety Kyle Hamilton and ended up with Buss, Lewis Cine, Andrew Booth Jr., and Ed Ingram. By the end of the first training camp, the coaching staff knew Cine wasn't going to make it. Oh. By the end of the first training camp. So they drafted him in April. By the end of July, according to this, they knew Cine wasn't going to make it. That is horrible. That your first-round pick is a bust 3 months in. Booth showed very few signs of promise as well and got hurt. Meanwhile, Hamilton became an instant superstar with the Ravens. Williams eventually turned into a 1,000-yard receiver with the Lions. The draft went so catastrophically bad that it was impossible to ignore. Over the years, anytime Adolfo-Mensah's name was brought up within the team and around the NFL, the struggles in the NFL draft will be a major part of the discussion. And that's something that we've talked about as well. So, in analysis of this, the timing of it is the shocking part. I don't think him being dismissed is shocking at all. In fact, if this would have happened the day after the Viking-Packer game in early January, I don't think anybody would have been like, oh, well, okay. And certainly the drafting of McCarthy is a huge part of this as well. Now, this is not all on Kwesi. KOC has got to take some of the heat here as well on what has transpired. And you cannot, and I think the Wilfs certainly, and it was a word salad press conference on Friday afternoon that they said nothing. They kept saying this is a collaborative decision and it's a cumulative effect of what has gone on. But you cannot overlook, as we're talking about Super Bowl week and getting ready for the game on Sunday, and this entire week you're going to hear about Sam Darnold. And for whatever faults that happened here, and you can lay that at the game in Detroit in Week 18, and I'm not going to fault him for the playoff game. The offensive line was horrendous. Sam wasn't good in that game, but that was, to me, was not him. The game against Detroit was bad, but if we're going to litigate on one game and now see what he's done, and he's playing in the Super Bowl, that's a fireable offense as well. And I don't care anything about, because other stories have come out, and you're going to hear it today and in the coming days, that he took a couple weeks off for the birth of his kid. Come on. It's football. We're not building rockets here, okay? I don't care if it's in training camp or what. Come on. We can have guys can take time off. People can take time off for the birth of children. Yeah. More than a day or two. Because that has been circulated as well. And the fact the Vikings had to go and spend so much money in free agency because to cover up for the lack of picks is completely antithetical of why they brought in Kwesi to begin with. They wanted him to draft, get cheaper players, and rebuild that way. One other paragraph I got to read. Meanwhile, KOC led the way on the J.J. McCarthy pick, going with Adolfo Mensa and other coaches and leaders of the team to meet with all the potential first-round quarterbacks. It seemed the process was good, even if Adolfo Mensa struggled with some of McCarthy's numbers. But even then, when the team focused on, quote, NFL throws, they saw a lot of good stuff on McCarthy's tape. O'Connell pounded the table for Sam Darnold as the bridge quarterback. They landed him for $10 million, and that worked out magically for 16 games as he led the Vikings to a 14-2 record. After the victory over Green Bay, the team was considering finding a way possible to keep Darnold. But the final 2 weeks broke everyone and changed everything. Darnold melted down against Detroit, costing the Vikings home field advantage, and then the entire offense was outclassed by the Rams. In the loss to Los Angeles, several issues shined through. They were not good enough on the interior of the O-line or D-line, and they had no counterpunch when the Rams were winning the line of scrimmage, and they couldn't use 4 rushers to chase Matthew Stafford, who ate their blitzes alive. And they decided to go with the plan they had hatched from day one, let Darnold go, spend the money that would have been put into a franchise tag on the rest of the roster, and roll with McCarthy. A source told Purple Insider at the NFL Combine they were asking about trade opportunities for Darnold, but nobody would bite, knowing the Vikings would have to let him go for nothing. He signed with the Seahawks on the first day of free agency. And this is the last part I'll read on this, because I think this is interesting. This is where things get fuzzy. For many years to come, the blame for allowing Darnold to leave and putting the entire franchise on the shoulders of J.J. McCarthy will be debated, retold, and certainly twisted through media sources to make it seem that it was one person's fault more than another. There are rumors that some coaches, possibly KOC, tried to warn the front office that McCarthy might not be ready and that they needed a rock-solid backup plan if they weren't going to keep Darnold. There are rumors that there were more concerns about McCarthy's recovery from his meniscus than were made public. Some will say O'Connell wanted to keep Darnold. Some will say KOC who wanted Aaron Rodgers. One guy online is saying he heard that O'Connell wanted to trade McCarthy. We're not going to know. That's the point of Collar's piece, and I thought it was really well written. And hopefully maybe we can get Matthew on here. He's busy, I know, chasing other scoops on this, but to fully divulge into this. There are so many offshoots of this. You cannot mess up the quarterback. You cannot. Now, have they done that? Do we have enough data to say they have? I don't know yet. I think we're pretty darn close on McCarthy. And it was not good. And you cannot overlook. I mean, hindsight is what it is, but to see Sam Darnold quarterbacking the Seattle Seahawks and he was on our roster and we decided to move on, that for the owners who pay the bills, I'm sure that there's egg on their face, man. There's no doubt. And they had a defense that was as good as they were. The Vikes finished, 5th in the NFL in total defense. They win 9 games in spite of their quarterback play. I mean, Carson Wentz came in and won a handful of games for them. That's just that. And the fact that he didn't relate well, I mean, okay, not everybody's a people person. I think, frankly, it comes down to the misses in the draft and the fact that Darnold is quarterback into the Seahawks. It's hard to overlook those two major things that are happening. And so now, Rob Brzezinski's going to be the guy here for the next few months to guide them through the combine process. That now is the next major thing on the NFL calendar. After the game wraps up on Sunday night, that's where everybody turns their attention to now, is the NFL combine coming up here in 25 days. And then after that, it's free agency. And then it's on to the draft. Those are three major pieces of building your team for 2026. And then they're going to hire a GM afterwards. So it's like, hey, we're going to make the ingredients and we're going to make the cake, and then you get to dish it out afterwards. It's just completely bizarre. But that's what the Vikings have decided to do. And only the Vikings could go and do that and totally blow the Twins off the front page. The Twins had it for about 90 minutes on Friday. And granted, the Twins are where they're at right now, where I'm sure some are in the apathetic mode of they don't really care about what's going on with them because they've decided to do what they've done over the last 12 to 18 months. Basically, since they beat Toronto in the opening round of the playoffs in 2023. Because the last 2 years have not been good. So there you have it, and there'll be more to come, and we'll follow this over the coming weeks, months on what's happening with the Purple. Staying with football before we wrap up our opening segment, we mentioned Kwesi was at the Senior Bowl. Was he looking at Cole Payton? We'll never know. But certainly plenty of the NFL was over the last week. The game on Saturday wrapped things up, and again, we pointed this out during the week that the game per se is not necessarily the biggest thing, but let's just say Peyton had a pretty good game as well. He was named the National Team Player of the Game. It's not the MVP. The Senior Bowl is weird. They have a MVP. That was Gavin Nussmeier from LSU. And then each of the teams had the Player of the Game, which Peyton was. He came in a couple of drives, including at the end of the fourth quarter, where his team had only scored 3 points and actually got him going. That slant over the middle was a big play that went for 22 yards. Showed his legs off as well, able to rumble forward. This was a big play in the fourth quarter. Kept his team on the field. Kept the drive alive here. Had another nice throw. This one zinged over the middle that got them down inside the 10-yard line. Ended up setting up a touchdown, the only touchdown that the national team would score, as the American team ended up winning 17-9 was the final. This was his last pass of the game. This one down to the 1-yard line. Ends up finishing 72 passing yards, 22 rushing yards in the game. And the biggest takeaway that he'll have is that he had a really, really good week and made himself some money coming out of this. Now, where this ends up, that's still for the next 2 to 3 months to determine. I think as you sit here on this Monday morning, if he was a late day 3 pick, he certainly moved himself up to high day 3. I don't think there's any question about that. Whether now if a team decides when he goes to the combine and shows the speed he has, because again, I think that's sneaky, what people don't understand. His arm strength, absolutely. All of that now will be on display coming up here when he gets to go to Indianapolis at the end of the month. He said after the game, I'm feeling like myself again. About a week and a half ago, and if you missed it, Cole's mom, Linda, was on the show on Friday. She was great and told us this, that what Cole said afterwards, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, I started throwing again. Wasn't feeling the best. That's what Linda told us. Last week, it was feeling good when I was spinning it, so I was feeling like myself again. We know the NFL Network guys, both Daniel Jeremiah and Charles Davis, had plenty of good things to say about him throughout practice through the week. And now it's on. He'll head back to California our hope is hopefully we can get a chance to catch up with them this week, early next week, and now begin training for the combine, because this was different. Because this was making sure the thumb was ready to go, and it was. Now, the next 3 weeks are going to be all training, getting ready to do the 40. The vertical, he told me that when we were in Nashville for the Walter Payton ceremony. The vertical, he was really excited about doing that. Now that's what the next stretch is going to be about, determining how that goes. So, fun week in Mobile for former Bison Cole Payton. We got plenty to get to here on a Monday morning. Excited about our show lineup today, which is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We'll do our best of the weekend coming up here in just a few minutes. Really good candidates in there. Appreciate all the emails we got on that this weekend. At 9:35, Sam Herder will join us. He does each shit every Monday to get our started. Some FCS chatter there as the portal offseason is almost wrapped up. Teams look like they have their rosters intact now for 2026. We'll discuss that with Sam coming up at 9:35. Jeff Kolpack will be with us at 10 o'clock. Unpack another victorious Bison basketball weekend. The Bison men got pushed to overtime in their game in South Dakota, but came out on top. The Bison women dusted another one, Oral Roberts, by 20-some-odd points on Saturday to remain unbeaten as we start the turn for home in Summit League play. That's coming up at 10. And at 10:35, former Bison All-American, the pride of Pierre, South Dakota, Gray Zabel, the Seattle Seahawks starting left guard, will join us to chat about making it to the Super Bowl, playing next to his best friend in Jalen Sundell, the starting center. You heard my conversation with Jalen we had as well a couple weeks ago. I mentioned the Bison going to be represented twice over at Super Bowl 60 on Sunday night on NBC. Pretty good stuff there. That's coming up at 10:35. Really fun conversation with Gray. Looking forward to that. That and a heck of a lot more here on a busy Monday. We'll take our first break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. We'll salute our best of the weekend. We come back. That's coming up right after this. Our best of the weekend. We salute each and every Monday at 9:20. Appreciate, we got a bunch of emails in this weekend to get a couple of these candidates on, so I appreciate that. You do it each and every Monday, Dizzo at WDAY.com. We'll start with a salute to a player we've known for quite a bit out of Kindred, North Dakota. Big weekend for Taryn Johnson of MSUM. The Dragons taking on St. Cloud State on Friday night. Johnson became in rarefied air in the Dragon program. She scored her 1,000th point there on this basket on Friday. Not to be outdone as she got a big bear hug from her teammate, one Fargo Davies alum, Ashton Safransky, who had a triple-double in the game on Friday. In fact, if you can get Carla to smile, and she's going to laugh at this. Carla's even smiling during the game. That's a big deal for the Dragons. Congratulations to Taryn Johnson. As we mentioned, Safransky was fantastic. Here, this drive and score. Dragons go on and they beat St. Cloud on Friday. Congratulations to a couple players that we had the great pleasure of highlighting their high school careers. Taryn was part of those unbelievable Kindred teams that won a couple of state championships. Safransky was part of some dynamite Fargo Davies teams. Shout out to them. That was good stuff. Another player we've had the distinct pleasure of highlighting during our state tournaments as we look forward to that coming up here at the end of the month. And we'll see her again at the end of the month. Fargo North-South standout Kenley Fisher. Saturday against Bismarck Century. Just did her use 4 goals. You'll see 3 of them for the Spruans and their victory over Century. She's the best player going right now in North Dakota girls hockey. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And she was great again on Saturday. Did a little bit of different ways. Saw one from the point. One little wrister there. Just did everything. Her last one might be the best one here. Weaves around a player. Deeks scores. What are you supposed to do with that? On the season, after what she did on Saturday, 32 goals, 18 assists, 50 total points. That was last year, right? I got to update it here. Career stat-wise is just crazy for what she's done. Hold on. Got to update it here, what she's done this season, because this one has been even better. Yeah, okay. 16 games played. We still have another month of the season to go. 24 goals, 14 assists, 38 points, 4 power play goals as well. She scored 7 goals in her last 3 games. Other than that, hadn't done a whole lot. 2 against Devils Lake last week, and then 4 in the game on Saturday. Congratulations to Kenley. That was awesome to see that North-South team humming again. Look forward to seeing them at the end of the year. State tournament this year back here in town at Shields Arena on the south side of town. Last thing to wrap up our best of the weekend. We mentioned the Bison men got pushed to the brink on Saturday. Andy Stefanowicz was fantastic in this game. He did everything well for the Bison in their victory against South Dakota. Knocking down threes, which no surprise there that he was able to make some shots, because what else is new on that? Driving to the basket. Stefanowicz finished the game. First career double-double. 15 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. He's 4 away from a triple-double in the victory over South Dakota. This play at the end of regulation was huge. Thought that was going to give the Bison the win. USD actually would tie it up and force overtime. He made that extra pass to Tay Smith. That was a big-time 3 that essentially iced the game for NDSU. In fact, he decided, you know what? I got a little bit more in me here. This drive and finish was tremendous. Should have been an and one. Again, the Bison were playing without Damari Wheeler-Thomas in this game. He missed his second straight game after the ankle injury he suffered a week ago Thursday in Denver. Where would they be without Stefanowicz? He was shooting like his dad, playmaking like his mom is probably the best way to describe it. Congratulations to Andy, another member of our best of the weekend. Bison back at home. They've got Denver coming up here on Thursday, then Omaha on Saturday. Couple of biggies. NDSU still in first by a couple of games over UND as we head to the stretch run of the Summit League season. That's our best of the weekend. We do it each and every Monday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. Sam Herder on the other side. We'll chat some FCS ball. Plenty of FCS representatives in the Super Bowl. That's coming up when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning show off and rolling. We'll hear from former Bison All-American Seattle Seahawk Gray Zabel coming up here in about an hour. The Super Bowl media night, it used to be media day, then they moved it. Now it's called opening night. I only bring this up because it's tonight. I was there 8 years ago to cover it with Carson Wentz. We'll tell this story later in the week, but probably with McFeely tomorrow because it's always good there with Deion Sanders, and it was just a gong show. I bring it up because I have a feeling Zabel might be the star of that tonight when the Seahawks are out there in front of the assembled media as we bring in our guy Sam Herder, who chats everything FCS football at 9:35 to start our week on a Monday. I have to imagine the cameras will find the Seahawks guy. He'll have plenty to say, I would imagine, tonight.
Yeah, Gray is definitely, I think, kind of turned into the media, charm as far as like knowing you're going to get some really good quotes from him. And I don't know if he was totally like that at NDSU or not. I know like Bison media likes to interview offensive linemen because that's one of the rare schools where the offensive linemen are kind of the stars on the team. But it kind of seemed like as the draft was happening last year that a lot of media realized that this Gray guy he's a really great interview, and so yeah, he'll probably have a lot of media attention on him during these interviews. I do remember a couple of years ago at the NFL Combine, I talked to Jalen Sundell a little bit. A lot more stoic, not as media question answer, friendly, but that's fine as well. So I think Gray will definitely get a lot of attention here.
Yeah, that's the neat part about it with each of those guys. They're yin and yang there. There's no doubt about it. One is pretty different than the other, which has been fun to see here over the last couple of years. So we were chatting on Cole Payton. We'll get a little bit more of this coming up in the next hour, but it seemed like Cole had a pretty good week. If there was only a couple of FCS guys that were in Mobile, Sam, it certainly seemed like Payton may have had the best week of them over the last few days.
Yeah, and this is really when it starts for draft prospects. Obviously, you need to show the film, and you need the the numbers and all that during the season to at least get attention on you and get these all-star game invites. But really January is where it starts as far as, are you going to rise, are you going to fall, are you going to kind of stay the same in your draft stock with these all-star games. And the Senior Bowl along with the Shrine Bowl, those are the two heavy hitter ones, and it sounded like Cole had a really good week. It's really the practices, that is kind of where you can make your money. The game is important too. You don't want to go into the game and throw 4 interceptions or anything like that. But just going through certain drills that they put you through, talking with NFL management. I'm not sure if they do a whole lot of. They might usually like one-on-one visits they'll do this, but put you up on the whiteboard and draw up certain concepts, and this is the play call, the defense gives you this look, what are you checking to kind of study your football acumen. That's super important as well. But overall, Cole had a phenomenal week, and it was interesting. Last year it kind of seemed like he was somewhat already on the NFL radar just from his athletic ability. Like, this is an NFL level athlete. But after the season he had, it's okay. He's not just an NFL level athlete; he's an NFL level quarterback. Just with the arm strength that he's shown and his accuracy and all that stuff. And I think he's going to continue to rise up the draft boards.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. This time last year, we're wondering what he could do. Can he throw the football? Can he get? Hedberg, of course, doesn't miss a thing to text me about. Hey, can he play quarterback? Because that was the big question. And now here we are a year later, and he's a potential day 3 NFL draft pick.
And that would be what the fifth Bison
quarterback?
Correctamundo.
Yep.
Since 2016, which is just crazy to think about, and especially because you look at the last two, and Cam Miller kind of had his up and downs, more so at the start of his career when it was like, okay, is this the guy to lead the Bison back to a national championship? And then, like you said, with Cole Payton, like, we kind of assumed he would be at least a pretty good quarterback, just based off of NDSU's history, but he was an elite quarterback, and now he's put himself in the position to be a draft pick. And so the Bison just continue to churn out these draft picks year after year, and especially at the quarterback spot, it seems like if you're a starter for NDSU at the quarterback spot, you have a really good chance. And so, no pressure to Nathan Hayes, or anything, but it sounds like he has the skill set to, maybe put himself in this position next year. We'll have to see.
All right, so we're visiting off air in the midst of the FCS now real off season, because I think for the most part, rosters are, if they're not 90% set, they're probably in that ballpark. Sam, what do we make of how, quote unquote, the free agency period happened for some of the top FCS teams?
Yeah, that is, because when we talk about what makes more sense for the transfer portal, the winter or the spring, I think a lot of people say, well, the spring probably makes more sense. I will say, from a media perspective, I like the one portal window in January, because once late January hits, like, we know, okay, these are the quarterbacks coming back. This team has 8 defensive starters coming back. We don't have to wait until April to know, like, okay, who's all coming back or not. So that is nice. When it comes to this one-year transfer portal window, or this one-time transfer portal window, it seems like Montana State, they lost a few guys, but I think overall they're pretty, happy with how everything turned out. South Dakota State, they didn't lose really any of their key guys except for their all-conference safety. You look at some other teams like Mercer, they got hit pretty hard. That usually is what happens with when you have a head coaching change. And Montana, they lost a decent amount of guys to the FBS as well. And I think we're starting to see, instead of FCS teams losing guys, now we're seeing what FCS teams are bringing in. And it's always hard to know, like, when an FBS guy that hasn't played a whole lot goes to the FCS, you don't really know how that is, going to play out. But sometimes you do see some guys that were stars at the FCS level go to the FBS, and then you see them go back to the FCS. Eli Ellis is a name that comes to mind. He was an All-American at Nichols 2 years ago, went to UAB this last year, didn't really play a whole lot, and now he's back in the FCS at SFA. So those are always kind of interesting as I'm updating my portal, entries or portal destinations. Like, you kind of recognize some names that are going from the FBS to the FCS because they started their career at the FCS.
Bison added a linebacker out of Cornell, out of the Ivy League, and Keith Williams last week, who played it for a couple years, was a really good player for the Big Red last year. I'm intrigued because the Bison have gone the Ivy League route here over the last couple of years for guys. Anthony Shadime Alfaro ended up being a starter over the last year and a half. Jack Giuliano was a nice depth guy for NDSU. This is a spot, though, middle linebacker, after they lose Nathaniel Staling, that Williams has played, and you need experience. The Bison, frankly, at that spot on the current roster, didn't have anybody with real game experience prior to Williams joining the team.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good ad for the Bison. And now you go from, a position, like you said, where there wasn't a whole lot of snaps returning. And now you add Keith into it, and, he does have a good number of snaps played. And, it's interesting that I believe he's just going to be a junior.
Yes.
So he has a couple of years of eligibility remaining. Usually when guys transfer out of the Ivy League, usually they're a grad transfer, just because, they finish out the year or their academic career at an Ivy League school. But anytime you can get a transfer where it's not just one and done, you can at least get 2 years out of that transfer, I think is definitely a great deal for NDSU. And it's always a mixed bag, right? Like, there could be a D2 All-American that comes to the FCS and, maybe they're really good, maybe they're really bad. And same thing with FBS to FCS. Sometimes those guys end up being stars at the FCS. Sometimes they don't always pan out. The one area where you can kind of look at and what you're going to get is when you have an FCS, impact starter guy going to another FCS team. And so you kind of know, okay, this guy can play at this level. He's been productive. And so those are always, at least for me, those are the transfers that move the needle the most, is when there is an FCS starter that goes to another FCS team. Again, doesn't always mean, he's going to be an all-conference guy for NDSU, but I think he's a plug-and-play guy that's going to play a lot of snaps, probably start, and have a really good season there for the Bison.
Email comes in. Dom, can you ask Sam about the amount of guys that actually have withdrawn from the portal and gone back to their team? Is that more of an anomaly, or is that more a common occurrence? We've seen that. I know a couple of guys from Monmouth decided to go back. That's a tricky wicket to me. I don't know how I feel about, if you're going to go, then I don't know how open the door is. Hey, we want you to come. We'll let you come back.
Yeah, I don't think it's super common, but it does happen, every now and then. I think Dylan Lord for Illinois State is the most noteworthy one. And I had an Illinois State staffer, I was texting back and forth, and they were kind of surprised at that because Coach Spack has kind of had the mantra of, once you enter the portal, like, we're moving on, we're going to find you a replacement, or we're going to give your scholarship money to a guy that we think, deserves it. Monmouth had a couple of guys, including a really good wide receiver and a safety as well. I think Lehigh's All-American safety. He also withdrew his name from the transfer portal. I know Montana State a couple of times has had some guys that entered the portal and then withdrew their name from the portal. They're not always necessarily like star players, but like key backup guys. They had a running back that did it last year. I think one of the receivers did it this year. Again, not like, a starter or anything like that. I think every situation is different. I do think could be a bit of a slippery slope where you don't want to make that the norm, or else you're just allowing guys to enter the portal. If they don't get the offers they want, you're free to come back, or else then more guys are going to do that and you find yourself in a difficult spot. But there could be some, unique scenarios where a guy entered the portal for whatever reason. He realized it was a mistake and, talked to the coaches. Sometimes as well, the coaches will, talk to their players and be like, hey, this guy wants to come back. Are you guys cool with that? And sometimes the players might say, he wasn't really a good locker room guy and he left on bad terms. So, let him stay off of our team. Other times they might say, hey, we'd love to have him back. So I think it's kind of unique scenarios for each one.
Well, I think also, how good is the player? Lord is really good. I'm sure Spack's like, if he wants to come back, we'll take him. I mean, if you can impact and help them win, I think, you know what I mean? I think it depends on how good you are if you want to come back or not.
Yeah, and both coaches and players probably feel like that. The coaches will say, we want this guy back because he can help us win.
Correct.
And, teammates, as well, might say, that's our guy. He's also a key player on our team, so we would love to have him back. Again, you don't want to make it the norm, or else you're you kind of find yourself in a difficult, sticky situation right there. But I do think there are some times where, a team is okay with bringing a guy back.
I'm interested, there's not more than a couple of Big Sky guys. We mentioned the Valley guys going to be playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday. They can have some ultimate bragging rights here. They got the FCS championship, and they're going to have a bunch that are going to be playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday night.
Yeah, I think there are 17 former FCS players on both of these rosters, at least active rosters, and it seems like half of them are coming from the Big Sky. You have Cal Poly, Eastern Washington, Idaho. Sac State is represented. Both Montana schools are represented. Weber State is represented, and mostly on Seattle. They have some really impact guys. Cooper Kupp, he's a very familiar name, but even Ty Okada, he's an impact guy on the defensive side of the football. We talked about both of the NDSU guys, on the offensive line, or just been road graders on the interior of Seattle's offensive line, and then Rashid Shaheed is probably the splashiest player just with his playmaking ability, his returning ability as well. He still is, I believe, the record holder in the FCS for most career touchdown returns for kick return, I believe. And so, there's a lot of really good FCS representation in the Super Bowl here.
Shaheed, I believe, was a 4-time All-American at Weber. Is that right? If I remember correctly.
I believe so. That sounds right. And, it was one of those things where it was like, a couple of years ago, it was like, hey, don't kick to Junior Bergen for Montana. But it was the same thing with Shaheed where they just weren't able to, avoid him. And he was dynamic at Weber State.
One last thing, Youngstown State just made it official. They announced their new defensive coordinator is the Mercyhurst head coach. So how is that the latest opening we have? How many head coaching openings do we still have in FCS football now?
Yeah, I believe we have.
Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Now, there are about 19 or 20 openings or 20 head coaching changes. 19 of them have been filled. Obviously Mercyhurst, they're gonna have to fill theirs, but all the other ones have been filled. 20 total isn't a huge number compared to past years, but this is a really good hire, I think, for Youngstown State, bringing in Ryan Remedio, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. Take a guy with head coaching experience and bring him in to be your defensive coordinator. And that's a key spot for the Penguins because they're going to be really, really good on offense. Offensive line is going to be super experienced. And then obviously Bo Brungard, reigning Walter Payton Award winner, he's coming back. They just need to get that defense fixed, in my opinion. If they could turn that unit around, that's going to be a pretty complete team that I think is, anytime you return a star quarterback like that, I think you're always kind of preseason wise, you're looked at as, potential dark horse team. And I think Youngstown State could be that dark horse team just with Bo Brungard there. And like I said, that experienced offensive line. But that's a big task for them to turn around that defense, get them at a championship level and to be able to go on a deeper playoff run.
Especially after how the season ended with what Yale did in that playoff game, there's going to be some hard feelings defensively, especially on how things ended there. Great to see you as always, man. Enjoy the week and we'll talk next Monday. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
There you go. Sam Herder joins us each and every Monday to get the week started. There's no shortage of things going on in FCS football. Again, that topic we talked about guys coming back, leaving. I know it hasn't happened here. It hasn't happened in many other spots. I think how good are you? And if the team says, hey, we want you back, then there's a potential to do that. We'll wrap up our first hour. Again, we got some news on Giannis and the Wolves is not going away. The trade deadline is on Thursday. Chat about that and wrap up our first hour here on a Monday morning edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra after this. All right, our thanks to Sam Herder for wrapping up our first hour. Good stuff there. All right, so the trade deadline in the NBA is Thursday. So between now and then, we're going to hear every rumor under the sun, including on LeBron James. The Wolves are right in the rumor mill, and that goes back to apparently they have more than feigned interest at Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's made it known that he wants to move on from Milwaukee. Report this morning, the Timberwolves are gauging the trade value of Julius Randle and Naz Reid for a potential Giannis Antetokounmpo blockbuster. Minnesota will likely need to surrender a package of Randle, Reid, and Jaden McDaniels to satisfy the Bucks' significant draft pick threshold for Giannis. That's gutting the team. That is gutting the team. And I go back to what we talked about Friday. Thursday night, the Wolves had the Thunder at Target Center. Wolves dominated the game. They won by 20 over the best team. And then they come out and play, what was it, Saturday against Memphis and mess around with the Grizzlies. They won the game, but it wasn't all that. Again, Chris Finch was not thrilled. Tim Conley, their GM, has had massive swings since he's taken over. The trade for Rudy, the trade that sent Cat to New York. This would be the biggest, because then you're literally talking about gutting the roster. I do not want them to trade Julius Randle. I certainly don't want them to trade Jaden McDaniels. Nas, I'm 60-40, they can move on. But you can't trade all three. Can we trade two and keep one of them? If this is going to happen. And is Giannis going to come back and play? He's hurt. That's the big story right now surrounding that. So the Vikings had their time in the sun. Here they fired their GM. Now the Wolves are ready to take over the headlines here with the trade deadline coming on Thursday. Going to be fascinating to see what happens there. We'll break. We come back. We'll start our second hour. Jeff Kolpack will join us. We'll chat on those unbeaten Bison basketball teams keep on rolling. Got some Bison football news to nosh on as well. We'll do that when hour 2 of Hot Mic begins on a Monday morning right after this.
This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2. I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4. I should have yelled 2.
All right, here he is, everybody. Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday. His appearances are brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Great to see you, bud. How are you?
I need to start off with a correction from last week. We were talking about Paul Sjogren, the Bison basketball gunner. He's from Alexandria, not Moorhead. Oh. But he was a chiropractor in Moorhead. That's how I got things confused up. I think his daughter played for the Spuds. So, the gunner is from Alexandria, which I guess...
Old correction. Got it done, though.
I guess everybody in Alexandria, all you do is shoot.
That's
Apparently
right.
You do nothing else. You come with your bowling shirt with your name on it. It's all about him.
You saw that,
It's all about Alex. It's all about
I don't want to uproot it, but apparently he got asked about at the basketball game on Saturday where his bowling shirt was. So
evidently on that team, the name on the front is not as important as the name on the back.
Speaking of the hoops teams, so here we are, February 2. And both of them are still unbeaten. Is it now time to start really saying, hey, we have a chance to do something here in March?
Yeah, how can it not be? I mean, I just, I look at the men's team, and they're winning games down the stretch, which is a testament of a pretty mature team.
So the flip side, I know David's going to tell me this tomorrow when he's on the show. This is the second time they blew a 15-point lead, though, over the last 3 games. And but
you still won on the road.
They did. Both
in
of those
overtime.
games. They won at Denver, and they won on Saturday, frankly, against a USD team that had all of 7 players who are gutting through it right now. They added a couple guys at the mid-semester break. But and I'll say this again. Noah Feddersen lost his job to Trayson Anderson. Feddersen has come back and single-handedly won them 2 games. The game against Oral Roberts, the double overtime game, and then this game, Feddersen scored 20 points off the bench on Saturday.
Some guys are better off the bench. Maybe that's his role. Maybe it took a lot of pressure off of him for whatever reason. And coming off the bench, you get to see the game first. You get to see how it flows. You get to study the other team. And it's not as much pressure as when you're announced as a starter.
Maybe, because
who knows?
It's certainly without him, without Scuda for a game when they beat St. Thomas, that the Bison would not be certainly where they're at right now. I mean, they're a deep team that's getting contributions from everybody right now.
I think you can say the same thing for the women's team, in that with Jocelyn Schiller, it took the pressure off Molly Lenz bringing the ball up the court. Now she just, she's more concerned about shooting.
Which has worked out.
Yeah, which, again, I mean, we can get in that team. But sometimes when you take the pressure off kids, they just play better in other roles, and that's, I think, what we're seeing.
Now, on the men's side, Damari Wheeler-Thomas did not play again. That's the second straight game he missed after injuring his ankle late in the game against Denver a week ago Thursday. That he's still trending, and hopefully maybe he can come back. That's the piece, though. I mean, Damari has made this team go that they need him for whatever's to come. Because remember, the Bison still have to go to Brookings. They still have to go to St. Thomas, and they still have to go to Grand Forks. You just looked at those standings. Yeah. Those are all the teams right behind them right now.
But again, here's a guy who came back after redshirting last year and is in a slightly different role with Stefanowicz taking over the full-time point guard duties, and it's just made him flourish scoring-wise.
Yep. Yeah. You could have spent your paycheck and mine. No way I had UND as tied for second in the league. I mean, that you got to give Paul Sather a ton of credit there. That they are
100%.
They went to win at St. Thomas last week at 7-2. I mean, this last stretch, the Bison still have Omaha coming up this weekend. They still have to go to Brookings. They're done with USD. Denver comes up here. I want to get to Kansas City in a minute because there actually is some news on the Ruse. And then obviously the 2 games with UND. And at St. Thomas. That's not an easy schedule to wrap up the year.
Those NDSU UND men's games should be packed.
Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
The game is going to be the men's game in Grand Forks is, I believe, Valentine's Day. That should be interesting.
There'll be a lot of love in that arena.
No love lost that game. And then it's the final game of the regular season here, February 28th.
Doubleheader.
To wrap up the year for the Bison against North Dakota. Then sneak in, by the way, right before that, they have to play at St. Thomas on Thursday the 26th. So that is, you talk about leaving the biggest 2 games of the year for the last 2. That's exactly what's happening for the Bison men this year.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that they're going to get to number 1. There's a lot of stuff yet to be sorted out.
They can go from 1 to 3 potentially if what happens.
I was watching the St. Thomas game on, was it Sunday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Carter Bierke, what did he finish, like 25 threes or what?
10 threes yesterday.
He had 8 or 9 in the first half.
From St. Thomas. Yeah, I ended up 30 points in the game. He was
but
really
that's
good.
where I like NDSU's defense, especially when they go to that trap with Markai Strickland out front. Yeah. Harder to get Carter Bierke's not to get 3 looks like he did against Kansas City, which didn't have a whole lot of interest in playing defense on him.
The Ruse did make some news yesterday. They hired Mark Turgeon to be their next head coach.
What a weird situation.
Marvin Menzies is still coaching the team through whenever the Summit League tournament ends for them in early March. And then the former Wichita State, Maryland coach is going to be the new head coach at Kansas City.
It's been a while, like 21?
He's been out of the game for 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously coached at Wichita, so he knows this part of the area. Nobody's ever won at Kansas City. I mean, the Ruse are one of the handful of teams that have never been to the NCAA basketball tournament. They don't spend any money. I mean, I don't know. Menzies is in a no-win scenario there because they don't have any NIL. They don't have any access to the portal. Their arena is what it is, and
when somebody gets
Kansas
good, they're
City,
gone.
Right?
I mean, they are definitely gone.
I mean, their best player now, Jamar Brown, is playing at UCLA after he was really good there for the last couple of years. That is a really tough. You want to talk about tough jobs, which I want to get to in a second. That poll that came out. Well, Kansas City's got to be.
It starts with the arena. It's just a disaster. It's a recreation center.
Rec center, the Swinney Rec Center. Yeah. Yes. So Friday, poll came out, Jeffrey, about the top jobs, and this was from the Field of 68. That's the website that Jeff Goodman runs, and had rated that South Dakota State was the best job in the Summit League on the men's side. North Dakota State came in at 4. What say you on that?
Well, interesting. South Dakota State's a no-brainer. Just for the Summit League tournament alone.
Yeah,
that's why it's number 1.
And that's what was part of the rationale.
And they
redid
their facility, and so there's really nothing that you can't like at the South Dakota State job. Nothing.
Personally, I would have St. Thomas number 1 because if you want to talk about location, St. Thomas, which was voted second.
But the tournament is in Sioux Falls.
Correct. But again,
what's it all about, Dom? It's about making the tournament.
But it's also about getting players to your program. Tower's got. You're in Minneapolis, man. You've got the best advantage of any, and they have the best arena now. I would think St. Thomas's and South Dakota State's are 1 and 1A in terms of best facilities.
Who was 3?
Oral Roberts came in 3. Now, I would say
NIL reasons.
Yes,
I don't know.
And it's the big thing at the school. There's no football. No football is a big deal there. They have a brand new practice facility there. I would have I would have the Bison higher than 4, personally.
I don't know.
If
I guess I don't care.
I'm just interested on this. Omaha was at 5, then USD, Denver, and then UND was last, which again goes to the topic I brought up. But Sather is doing an amazing job, considering people think that that's the toughest job or the worst job, quote unquote, in the Summit League.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're coaching during hockey. It's just enough said right there.
And knowing full well what funding is for basketball at that school, that's a heck of a job.
Richmond coaching all during football, which she's done half the year, half the time here.
I'm just intrigued to see.
Maybe that's a reason he's 4 too. The Bison football team's usually playing into January
on most times.
That could factor in.
Meanwhile, the Bison women, we keep on winning. Here we go. We're into February. They've gone 2.5 months now without a loss. Went all of December, went all of January, have not lost a game. 18 straight, and their 2 opponents this past weekend, Jeff, they dusted both Denver and Oral Roberts.
What was your best tweet of the week? If you're at weekend, if you were to look at all the tweets, say between you and I what was your favorite one?
I know what you're going to say. Go for it.
It was, don't worry.
Yes, I knew what you were
my
going to say.
My trusty readers, I'm tapping into my 1990s experience as I'm looking at Alumni Day of writing good game stories on huge blowouts. I got good at it there in the 90s. It's taken a couple decades with the women program, but I've gotten back to it. So in the second half when I was looking for something to do, I look back at the 94, 95, 96 teams and thought, okay, that's Casey Morlock. You said Jenny Rodemacher was there. All those players, Lori Roofs.
God, they were good.
Lynette Munn. Really good. And I thought, who would win this matchup? And I didn't decide. I don't know which was the better team. It's hard. You could debate that forever. Even 92 or 93. But who would win a matchup? This team or that team?
Boy, Casey Morlock was awfully good.
She could run the floor, but so can Avery Coonan.
Yeah.
And Avery Coonan's 2 inches taller and certainly as athletic.
What's the point guard matchup?
Rhonda Birch versus
Jossie Schiller.
What
do you give the edge there?
Toss up. Rondo's a little bigger. Rondo's like 5'8", 5'9".
How about shooting guard wise? Where you go there?
Boy, Jenny was pretty good. I mean, I guess there wasn't was there a true shooting point guard? Rachel Otto or
that's another good player there.
Jenny could hit.
I might tend to go with that mid-90s team right now, but this Bison team
it'd be a fun matchup.
Yes, and I'll say this because we were following it at the end Saturday. The stunner out of Vermilion that South Dakota beat not that South Dakota beat South Dakota State, maybe a little bit, but that South Dakota beat South Dakota State by 20. Now the Jackrabbits have lost twice, so now here's when you get the cart before the horse, Kolpack. But unless the Bison are to fall flat on their face again, and here they have that. They have Kansas City and Omaha this week. They're not going to lose those 2 teams. I can't imagine. The Bison still have to go to Grand Forks. They have St. Thomas coming here. They have UND coming here, and obviously the Jackrabbits. Unless they fall flat on their face against teams that are really, really bad, they almost have the regular season title locked up right now.
I don't see it right now.
They got to go to Vermilion, though, too.
Just because of the way they're playing. I mean, the way they are playing is just everything's just flowing so well.
Yep.
South Dakota State's at a crossroads. I mean, they could take this and reverse course and do the old wake-up call.
Could.
And then go destroy everybody in Sioux Falls.
Yep.
They could do that.
Absolutely.
They have a couple players that are pretty good.
USD, well, that's a team that Carrie Amy totally built through the portal.
But again, that surprised me. They didn't look that big to me.
Right, and the Bison beat them by 20. They lost. USD lost by 20 to Oral Roberts in Vermilion as well, which is, it's a rivalry game. There's something to be said of that, but suddenly that game, when the Bison still have to go to Vermilion here next week, that's added a little
Aaron
spice
Johnson's
there
got
too.
some coaching to do. He's got to figure out his team, and he's got to look at his team and do you push buttons or you don't?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just rip into players, especially this day and age, and do the old 1970s Bobby Knight scream at them. You got to read your team.
Yeah, I still think to your point, they're not going to overlook anything.
No,
SDSU is still. And remember, the Jackrabbits still have to come up here, and they get USD in Brookings as well. So when we talk plenty, we still have 7 to 8 games remaining for every team here in the
It's just
league.
Groundhog's Day.
But just the fact that they lost 2 They lost 2 conference games. No one's used to that, of what's going on at South Dakota State on the women's side.
Has Puxatani Phil ever not saw his shadow? I feel like every year he sees his shadow.
What I'm talking about?
Well, it's 6 weeks of winter. I'm cold.
That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
I don't care.
You're throwing me off here, man. What are you doing? Who cares about the damn groundhog? I'm talking about the jackrabbits.
Why is it Groundhog's Day? That's why we care.
My goodness. All I'll say on this, by the way, for people who start getting the cart way before the horse, and mention this, the Bison still have SDSU at USD. Those are the 2 biggies. After that, I mean, they shouldn't mess around with Kansas City. Remember last year at Kansas City, the Bison didn't score a basket in the fourth quarter. You can't imagine that happening with this team, right?
I don't think so, no.
I mean...
Again, it goes back to Schiller, right?
Yeah.
She's got everybody else in the right spots, and she's so mentally strong. God.
Frost has become, I think, score 1B. If Kunin's 1A, Frost has now developed into that killer mentality, too.
And they have mentally tougher players than Jory's ever had. They haven't had this mentally tough of a team since, again, those alums before the Division I era. They were very. I mean, they would kill you on the court. This team has some players. I saw Schiller have the best game last time out against Oral Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
She had like 3 turnovers, uncharacteristic. But you looked at her and you could tell she's just torqued off.
Amy really said that during the broadcast.
You could tell
she turned one over, then got a steal and a basket.
Yeah,
right
you could
after
tell
that.
this was not sitting well with her, and it's not like, oh shucks, I made another. No, she was ready to kill somebody.
Let's break. We come back. We'll chat some Bison football because it's going to be right in the spotlight for the next few days. The Bison will have 2 alums starting in the Super Bowl. We'll do that with Jeff Kolpack on the other side of the break. Back on Hot Mic after this. Welcome back, everybody. Gray Zabel, former Bison All-American, will join us in about 15 minutes. Email comes in on your question, Kolpack. Dom and Jeff, I take the 90s Bison women. The edge is toughness. Those women were tough as nails, like you said. I played horse a lot with Lynette Mund in between classes of the BSA when we were in college. A competitive edge nearing on meanness was the answer on the email there.
Lori Roos, I would not mess with her in between the lines, man.
I wouldn't mess with Lynette.
No.
Lynette's one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
I would not go. That would not be something I would do.
There was one game against UND where, let's just say a couple elbows were thrown.
That's the part, and I think why South Dakota State has been where they're at, on side of the fact they've had the best players, they are also been the toughest.
Yes.
When Plitzowite finally got USD going, they became the tougher of the teams, and why USD had the kind of success. That's that last part. You've written about it how many times for Bison football, that's the thing in basketball. And you've got that tough component along with having really good players, you can go a long way.
Makes a difference.
Yeah,
that makes a difference, and especially in February and March, it makes a huge difference.
All right, so we've got sources are telling Hot Mike that there's this game on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, you got some putts after me.
Yeah, Gray Zabel's coming up. So I'm going through the list of guys, Bison football, either players or coaches in the Super Bowl, who's had the best Super Bowl game. Now, Stacey Robinson won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, beat the Broncos and the Bills in Super Bowls, what I'm going to test my memory here, 20 and 25 is what he won. Steve Nelson was the first Bison to ever play in a Super Bowl with the Patriots. That was 40 years ago this week.
I think he actually had a decent game, right? He had like 5-6 tackles.
Walter Payton a couple times. Our guy Phil Hansen played in 3 of these, and he doesn't need any reminder from me that he didn't win any of them. Ramon Humber played in a couple Super Bowls from the Division I era, won one of them on Super Bowl 53. Tyrone Braxton comes right to mind. I had a great chance to visit with Tyrone before the Bison played Colorado last year to chat about that, and then playing in 4 Super Bowls and winning 2 of them, and just that pinnacle. But now we've never had it where we've had teammates that were here at the same time
and making a difference. Teammates,
and not just on the practice squad.
Yeah.
They're on the field. They are starting in Jalen Sundell and Gray Zabel in this game on Sunday night.
Awesome, cool,
unbelievable,
and
story.
Just good dudes too. You appreciate. I know you were able to get a hold of them. Sundell last week, Gray this week. A lot. I don't know. Does everybody do that? Probably not.
I would say, yeah, it's been sometimes hit and miss. I had I got Joe Haig the crazy COVID year, and Haig had a chance to catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Remember, Brady threw it to him, and he dropped it in the end zone. No, I mean, I'd say frankly, the NFL is better at this in the most recent years than not.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the team because you have to go through. People don't know. You have to go through the team. You just can't call up Gray and go, "Hey, you free Sunday or Monday?"
Well, I probably could, but I'm sure
Well, it's protocol.
He's handling
protocol.
a bunch of interviews now.
Yep.
He's a big deal on this. But this is something, and we're going to visit with Dan Larson, their offensive line coach, coming up later in the week. This is something you could, and I asked Polisic when he was here last week, you brag about this till the cows come home, right?
And doesn't NBC in the introductions, don't they do they're going to do their team or their school?
Absolutely right. Yep. And you're going to hear
now, will you go Pierce, South Dakota, or you go North Dakota State? I mean, some guys do their.
That. I would imagine if I heard Gray Wright and NBC broadcast, because they pre-record it, he did North Dakota State, as did Jalen.
Yeah,
so
they should.
That's pretty darn good. And we mentioned this last week. Sundell's a guy that never played center until he got into his sophomore season at NDSU, which is crazy.
But again, we talked about it last week. He was Mr. Football in the state of Missouri for his class. Just really athletic.
Just looking back,
what an athletic family.
Yeah, looking back here now over the last 8 Super Bowls. Carson Wentz played it was in 2 of them, 52 and 59. Humber was in 53, Haig in 55. Spencer Wache was on the practice squad with the 49ers in 58. I mean, we mentioned Carson last year, now this. So that's a heck of a run for
But these guys have a chance, I think, to make the biggest difference in a game.
Probably since Joe Haig. I mean, Haig was played quite a bit for Tampa Bay's offensive line in Super Bowl 55. Prior to that,
how do you remember all those numbers?
I got it in front of me.
Oh,
I can remember. 55.
I was beginning to get impressed there by you.
I'll sit back and wait for that one.
Yeah.
But prior to that, likely would have been Tyrone Braxton starting for Denver when those back-to-back Super Bowls when they won against Green Bay and Atlanta to wrap up his career. That's
the rings have gotten a little bigger since I think those days.
A little bit.
Even in college, like Amy had her 1996 Division II women's basketball ring. It wasn't, it was as big as my wedding ring.
The bling is definitely expanded here. Speaking of now of this, the guy that's hopeful to be in the NFL this time next year is Cole Payton. What do we envision or how this week went in Mobile this past week?
Couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah,
couldn't have gone any better. Obviously opened some eyes, and now I think he's setting himself up in great position because we believe that when it comes to the measurables and on pro days and combine stuff, that he's going to measure out pretty well.
He's going to kill it there. I really believe that.
I'm curious on his 40 time. I'm going to say 4.5.
He told me that's pretty darn fast. He's officially 6'2", 229 is what he measured in at.
Certainly sub 4.6.
He told me the vertical is the one he's looking forward to doing the most.
He would know.
Well, and considering the fact that
saw that.
How many times he jumped over a guy 4 separate times this past season? I think the part that's underlooked in this, when we get to Indianapolis, because the same day the quarterbacks are doing their drills, the wide receivers are doing their drills. So he's going to be throwing to Bryce Lance as part of this during the combine at the end of the month, which talk about comfortability, which you don't have in all-star games or anything like that. Cole's going to have that when they get to Indianapolis.
Did he test pretty well with his arm strength over?
I think
it was good enough.
I think from what they saw, Daniel Jeremiah, who's the leading NFL Network draft, nerd on it, said he can sling it. He can go back and rip it. That what Charles Davis added as well. People knew about him, but his performance will warrant teams taking a second or third look at him after what he did this past week. So does that mean he gets into day 2, which is the second and third round? Depends on how the combine goes now, because I think he's went from, hey, maybe we'll take a flyer in the 6th and 7th round to I think 4th or 5th round is now a legit.
I thought his
ceiling
post-game interview was really good too. He just didn't answer like 2-3 word questions like some of these dudes. I mean, he was
thoughtful.
He's a smart guy.
Yep, and I just Hedberg never missed an opportunity to zing me because I got
zinged too.
Oh, did you get it? Because because here's the exact 7:35. I know he watches 7:35 Saturday night, and you didn't think he could play quarterback.
I got the same thing. Did he send it to McFeely too?
I said, I never said that. He goes, are you sure? I said, I only asked how good his arm was. And I'll never forget because Randy was here a couple weeks ago before going to Mobile. He says, you thought he would play tight end. I'm like, I didn't say. You told me that he was going to play tight end. He says, Cole Payton
the Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
Who's a New Orleans dude? The Taysom Hill.
He says, I will never let that pass. Kolpack's response when I mentioned him about Cole not being able to play quarterback, that was Dom, not me. You're throwing me out of the bus?
Oops. Did I say that?
I'm sure you did. That sounds like something you would do.
Sorry. I didn't mean it.
You know what? And that's the best part about this whole last 12 months for him, because when the season ended last year and Cam goes off, was how many times we see it on a Monday? Like, all right, thing is on Cole Payton. We know he's an unbelievable athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Can he throw the ball? Which was, I think, it's still a legit question, and that was answered time and time again throughout the 2025 regular season.
So Nathan Hayes in spring football, are you going to come out and say, Nathan Hayes can't throw the football?
I think we already know the answer on Hayes. I think it's a couple other things we got to figure out on Hayes between now and.
See, you're already doubting him.
Well, what are we doing here? I mean, come on. This is what our show is between now and August, 29th for the opener at the Word. We got to roll.
See ya.
Have a great week. Thanks for coming by. Jeff Kolpack joins us each and every Monday, apparently fixated on groundhogs today as well. When we come back, Gray Zabel will join us. The Seattle Seahawks standout left guard about reaching the Super Bowl in his rookie season. That is coming up when we come back. Back, everybody. So, as we mentioned, sources have told Hot Mike that the Super Bowl is on Sunday night in Santa Clara and San Francisco, the home of the 49ers, Patriots, and the Seahawks. Seattle has been installed as a 4.5-point favorite. All the talking will begin today. Super Bowl media night, opening night is tonight for both of the teams. I have a feeling our next guest is going to be sought after by nearly everybody to speak. And what a last 18 months it's been for Gray Zabel. We chatted about this a little bit for our conversation. You're going to hear in full here in a second, that he has not stopped since basically July of 2024. Had the entire Bison football season that goes to January of 25, then got ready for the Senior Bowl, went to California, did that, went to the Senior Bowl, had an unbelievable week, went back to California, then started training for the Combine, did that, then went back to California, started training for Pro Day, came to Fargo, did that, had about a week off for the NFL Draft, then that happens, goes to Seattle, and the rest is history as he's become now an all-rookie player in the National Football League. He has started all 19 games for the Seahawks this year. We had a chance to visit with him shortly after the Seahawks beat the Rams to go to Super Bowl 60. Our conversation with the former Bison All-American.
Got to ask, just describe being on the field, that moment at the end of the game when Nakua is out of bounds, and just what that moment was like for you.
It was numbing. Like, I had no idea where I was at. Didn't realize what just happened. Like, didn't fully kind of comprehend, like, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl. And it was just so crazy because I think this season it's just been like treat every week the same. Your routine, don't change anything, like keep everything the same. And then you go out there and you end up winning. And it's like it kind of clicked like the next day when we're sitting down having meetings, planning for the Super Bowl on what to expect, all this. And I'm just sitting in kind of in the back and you're thinking like, I am going to the Super Bowl. That is crazy. And then Jalen's sitting right in front of me. And I remember like leaning forward, like just telling him like, dude, how crazy is this? Like, who would have thought 4 years ago when we moved into our house in North Fargo together that this was where we'd be at?
Just hearing you say that, man, I'm just shaking my head at the whole thing. And I talked to him last week. The fact that you guys have done this together almost every game. I know you missed a couple with injury, and you're right next to one another. I mean, just thought like we did this in Fargo. We're doing this now in Seattle of all places.
Yeah, it's been so surreal. And like, it's super cool to experience it. Like, I cherish the hugs we give each other in the tunnel before running out to play a game. Like, dude, what an honor. Like, who would have thought? Like, every single time we give each other a hug, it's like, who would have thought? Like, to both be roommates with each other at North Dakota State and then go and play at this level, at this stage, and have the opportunity to play together in the Super Bowl. It's one of one. I mean, it's surreal, and you kind of got to speak it into existence to truly believe it.
Have you let your mind go there yet about getting introduced, walking on the field in a couple weeks in San Francisco, what that's going to be like?
Nope. I know the jitters, the nerves, like you try and be like as calm as possible about it, but I know like there's going to be some goosebumps walking out onto that field. So we're trying to hold those off as long as possible. And like I told my dad, like, I'm like, yep, just another game. And he immediately was like, you're so full of like, it's not like it's the Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, you're totally correct. Like, I just got to tell myself that for the next, 11 days, 12 days.
I mean, you have played championship games before. I know you've been nervous or amped up. Is there anything that can correlate with that to times 1,000 maybe for this game?
Yeah, it's so weird because like I don't get nervous before games. Like I kind of go through my steps. Like I was talking to Charles Cross about this. Like he like tapped me on the shoulder and he's like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "I'm listening to Eric Church right now." 14 minutes before we go out and play the NFC Championship. So like I don't really get nervous. This game's going to be a lot different, but like it's kind of been weird. Because people ask, like, oh, you've played in big games in college, like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, that's not even comparable to what we just played in and how loud a stadium it was for the NFC Championship.
This is going to sound ridiculous, but has this, I won't say easier, but the transition, everyone's glowing about how you've played. Why has this seemed seamless from FCS football to the NFL?
That's a great question. I wouldn't say it's been seamless. Like there's been bumps in the road. Like, and I mean, what a lot of people don't see is like the practices. Like I remember in training camp, like I don't know if I blocked somebody for like the first 2 weeks of training camp. Like I remember calling my dad one day and I was like, "Dad, like I might be back working on the farm sooner than later." Like he just started laughing. And I'm like, it's been like to have the vets that we have in the D-line room. And like, I was a young rookie, didn't really know what to expect. And they just worked me for like the first 2 weeks. And I remember one day it was in a third down period. And I finally like went 4 for 4 on like blocking somebody and not giving up sacks. I remember walking into the locker room and I was like giving high fives out, like, dude, we didn't give up a sack today. Let's go. Like, I think it's practice 13 or something, like just pumped up. And I think a lot of people don't see that. And then like the coaching, the coaches, the training staff, like all that, have the strength staff, like you give credit to them, like having us prepared to go play, having us feeling good on Sundays. I mean, our coaches teaching us what we can and can't do and what to expect. Like it maybe looks all right on Sunday, but nobody sees the kind of the trials and tribulations Monday through Saturday where it looks ugly a lot of the times. So
when did it click? Was there beyond that? Was that practice when it clicked, or was there another moment say, okay, I think I'm okay?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I would have to say like the Raiders preseason game, like that first game going up against like a different opponent. And I remember like after the game, I'm like, dude, football is a little bit easier in game when your teammates don't know the play, the stand. Like they can't tell what play it is based off how you put your hand down in the ground because they've went up against you 500 times in practice. And I remember like if you go back and play that first clip, my first NFL snap, it was a pass pro. I got wrecked, like ran through, like I got put in the lap of the quarterback. Luckily it was a quick protection, so the ball got out quick, but I'm like had to like, all right, we're here, like and I still like remember like that has to be the welcome to the NFL moment. Was my first play of the career. So but other than that, everything's kind of started to slow down, and you can even tell like now in games, like it's just all starting to slow down with the more reps you get.
So the fact that Seattle seemed to embrace you right away, can you describe that, whether it be the throwing out the first pitch of the Mariners game, obviously the reaction after the draft? Why do you think that Seattle has embraced you the way that it has?
I have no idea. And if you know the answer to that, I would be very appreciative if you shared that with me. But they've just been unbelievable. Like the community, the fans, the state, like it's been nothing but support. And like I always talk about, there was a few games where I did not play well. And like people still were like, go to the grocery store and they'd be like, hey, you've been killing it. Like, just keep your head down, keep going. So fun to watch you. Like my neighbors and stuff have been awesome. Like it reminds me a lot of Fargo, like just unbelievable people. They're always so like great to you and so appreciative and all that. And it's been awesome. So I definitely am extremely fortunate to play for the Seattle Seahawks.
Describe having mom and dad there the whole time. What's this been like?
Unbelievable. I know there's nothing that I can do to repay them for all the support, the miles, being there on the sidelines for me pregame, like being up in the stands, being able to give them hugs after every single game. Like it's been one of one. Like there can't be better parents out in the entire world. Like I've one of one. And I'm super grateful. And you've got to meet them and got to know them. They love you. And it's been super cool. And I'm sure this next fall it's going to be Fargo's on Saturday and Seattle on Sundays. So,
well, and I saw them both more than a handful of times here. And I know they were going to see you the next day. I mean, it's just crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's surreal. And the best part is like, it's just hilarious. Like there's a few times they've flown in Saturday night and I'm like, I'm not at the house, the passcode, it's basically your house too. So, I mean, whatever you guys feel like. So we'll see you tomorrow at the game type deal. But they killed it this year by making it to as many games as possible. And I know me and my two brothers truly, truly are grateful of that.
Let me ask you actually about the football game. I mean, have you got planning yet? Is it started? Are you looking at film of what New England brings to the table?
No, I'm assuming tomorrow we'll jump into that film-wise and stuff. I've been the past day and a half just been hanging out with family and friends, like just soaking it all in, just trying to maybe remove myself from football a little bit, just because like just to recharge the batteries, get in the right headspace. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't understand like how mentally taxing this game of football is and like the stress and the pressure you go through. And it's like, I even told like my offensive line coach this. I was like, yeah, probably not going to watch that game like for a few days. I know there's about 4 or 5 plays where I just got smoked. And I'm like, yeah, I just can't do that right now. Like, let's just unplug and maybe watch some farming videos or watch like a comedy movie or something with Will Ferrell or Mark Wahlberg or something like that. But just get away from football for the next 24 to 48 hours.
Who's on the ticket designation? Who did you assign to handle the requests that are coming?
Yeah, I'd probably have to say my mom and my dad. The funniest text message I've gotten yet is we win right after the game, and Jet texted our family group chat because like the first thing they like said was like, oh, Super Bowl tickets, how expensive they were. And he texts in there and he goes, well, I'm really going to see how much my brother loves me now. And I just laughed at the message and stuff. So it's one of those deals where you're just going to have to kind of wear that one and make sure the family's out there out in, is it Santa Clara or Santa Fran? Watch the game. So
how about that? You'll be playing in the 49ers stadium, a place I mean, just how I was talking to Jalen about this as well. Does it feel like it's been a mini FCS playoffs for you? Because you played the Rams 3 times, you played the Seahawks 3 times, that you did that all the time in Fargo in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's I mean, the people don't understand how hard it is to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
Let alone beat them twice in, I think, 3 weeks or something. It was like, I felt like we were playing them again because, like, the first game didn't count type deal. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, okay, we just faced them a week and a half ago, and we're preparing to play them again. Like, all right, like, I know these guys pretty well now, so we see him and it's just like, hey, how you doing? Like Marquise Siegel. I saw him before the game. I'm like, dude, I just saw you like a week and a half ago. Like, what could have possibly changed in your life? Like, it's great seeing you again type deal. So
last thing for you, just tell me, how much do you feel the support from Fargo, from Pierre, that throughout the season, and knowing it's going to be even more so in a couple weeks' time in the Super Bowl?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I literally just got a phone call from Coach Larson that I missed during this interview. So I'm going to get from him like too big time.
I'll talk to him too.
Yeah, too big time now to answer my phone call. But just unbelievable support system. Like, I still stay in touch with all the guys from North Dakota State. Still, we text nonstop. The coaches call me. We chat all the time. Like, it's one of those deals where I still feel like I'm in Fargo, but I'm just like on a vacation somewhere else. Like, I still chat with all my college buddies and all that. And so I'm excited. I know Mason Miller's getting married here in about a month and a half, 2 months. I'm excited for that wedding, to see everybody again and get back up to Fargo and talk football with all the coaches and all the guys, and get back to the weight room and start lifting again. And it's exciting, but it's been a surreal experience. And the text messages and phone calls that I've gotten from Fargo and Pierre, North Dakota, South Dakota, it's been cool. And it's one-on-one. It's really surreal.
Is it bizarre to see 76 Zabel, somebody wearing that jersey? Is that sunk in yet or no?
No, it always catches me for a moment, because I think it's like I'm still 74. Like, I wore all of college, but and I'm starting to get used to it a little bit, but it's surreal. Like, it's super cool and something I wouldn't trade for the world, but it's special. So now we gotta keep it going and win one more game
to see if the Seahawks can win Super Bowl 60. Our thanks to the Seahawks for setting that up. Awesome stuff with Gray Zabel. If you missed that, we'll podcast that as part of our show later on today. We'll take our final break. We come back. We'll wrap things up, get you ready to get a busy Sports Monday on tap. We'll do that one. Hot Mic Wraps on WDAY Extra after this. All right, wrapping things up here on a Monday. Tomorrow, Bison men's basketball coach Dave Richmond will join us. NDSU's got 2 games at home this weekend with Denver and Omaha. That's coming up tomorrow on the show. Much more Super Bowl content throughout the week. We're anticipating visiting with the Sundell family, more with the Zabels as well, leading up to the big game coming up on Sunday. Our friend Ryan Burns messaged me this. He actually visited with Moorhead Spud standout David Mack. Ryan says, David told him, I feel really good about Minnesota. The Gophers are definitely one of my top schools, if not the top school on my list. Over the weekend, another Spud, Zach Walker, got offered by South Dakota State. So the hunt is on for those are the top 4 Spuds. We know Jet Feeney got offered by Minnesota last week. Tay Rich has got a few big offers already there. Max certainly is being coveted. Zach Walker now has a Bison and a Jackrabbit offer. So the hunt is on for the Spuds. Also, the NFL is going to make it official today. They are going to France for a game next season. A game will be in Paris next year. The Saints will be the home team there. So mark that down for the first time that the National Football League will play a game in Paris, which they're just going to keep going, folks, with international games. Now, next year, the Vikings are one of the teams that are supposed to play at New Orleans. So could the Vikes go overseas again? No, Minnesota played back-to-back games in England and Ireland this past year. Other teams, the Cardinals, Raiders, Steelers, Browns, the Packers, Bucks, Panthers, and Falcons are scheduled to play against New Orleans next season. We'll find out. NFL press conference with Roger Goodell coming up later today. Let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. All right, we got What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Big night tonight. Wolves and Wild both going. Wild are in action against the Canadiens. One of their last games before the Olympic break. 6:30 tonight on FanDuel Sports North. The Wolves Who knows what they're going to have for a team after Thursday? They got the Grizzlies tonight on Peacock. I mentioned it's Super Bowl opening night. You'll hear from both the Patriots and the Seahawks, 7 o'clock on the NFL Network. Our thanks to Gray Zabel, to Sam Herder, and Jeff Kolpack. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Thanks for starting your Monday with us, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.